another episode of The Proud Skill Worker. Today we have an opportunity to interview Keith Hatcher. He's an industrial mechanic currently working in Massachusetts. Keith, thanks for being on the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, let's jump in real quick and get a little bit of background on you. How'd you end up in industrial maintenance?
About 19 years ago, I went into motorcycle repair. I actually went to MMI to work on motorcycles, and there really wasn't no money in motorcycles, so I had to go to work in a factory. And if I went to work in a factory, I wanted to work on stuff. So I've always worked with my hands and repaired stuff ever since I was 15 years old. And I've been in industrial maintenance for 18 years now, going on 19. So it's just, it's a way of life. So once you get into something, you got a knack for it. I like working with my hands.
Good. Tell me a little bit about how MMI, I'm guessing that's a motorcycle maintenance institution. Wild shot in the dark on an acronym.
Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. It's in Orlando, Florida. Everything works hand in hand. You got mechanical, electrical, I feel like if you can work on one thing, you can pretty much do whatever, as long as you can sit there and figure it out, what it has to do and everything.
Talk to me a little bit about how those skills transferred when you did end up getting into industrial maintenance.
Well, everything. As far as, being able to tear stuff apart, figuring out what's wrong with it and repairing it, and then being able to put it back together, reading blueprints, like electrical diagrams. That's everything that you have to do in industrial maintenance. And there was actually machinists work involved in it. You mic in cylinders and everything across the board. Everything translates from one to the other.
Those are industries that you don't necessarily expect to have an overlap in, but as you just described it, it almost feels like they're fully transferable across the board. I wonder if that's something people know if they're stuck in an industry or stuck somewhere. So definitely interesting to hear you talk about how transferable all of those small skills you had were when you got into industrial maintenance.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, as you've transitioned out of the motorcycle maintenance world and into industrial mechanics, what was the biggest challenge you faced, Keith?
Right off the top of my head, I can't really think of no huge challenges or anything. As long as you get out there and you're willing to learn and, put your all into it, always be willing to jump in there and help. As long as you're a go-getter, most times people's willing to teach you things and show you the ropes.
Really interested, Keith. Where's home for you?
Racine, Virginia.
Okay. And where are you currently sitting in your truck at?
Northampton, Massachusetts, Walmart.
Talk to me a little bit about why you are where you are.
I don't have real good service where I'm located at. I'm actually living in a 39-foot camper with my daughter just recently come up here with me. Here in a couple of weeks, my wife's going to be joining me. Hopefully we get to see the country. So
talk to me a little bit about traveling with Skillwork, how that's been for you, what hesitations you had, what the reality of that is, because I think people get into this traveling mindset thinking one thing and getting a different result. What was your expectation, and then what's been your reality?
My whole reasoning for basically wanting to join Skillwork and doing the whole traveling thing is the past couple years, as me and my wife talked about traveling and hitting the road and everything. I was kind of, at a point with my job where I didn't know if I wanted to keep doing the same thing. It got kind of turned into repetition, going into the same place every day, day in, day out. And Skillwork, you get these contracts, you can go in, you can learn a whole lot. You get to basically see the country and see what other companies have to offer, and you're just constantly learning because you're not seeing the same thing every day. You're constantly moving around and everything. And I thought that was really exciting. Plus with the aspect of me, my wife, my daughter, all of us being able to travel and see the country and meet new people. Like my daughter, we're going to homeschool her next year. So we're looking for this to be a way of life, as far as moving around and everything. So I think it's a pretty awesome opportunity.
What was your expectation going in on how the travel would be? Did you think it was going to be easier, harder, about how this was? I'm curious to know, when you decided to go all in on this, what was the reality of the expectation for you?
I knew it was going to be a constant learning curve, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy every day. I was looking forward, to the challenge and everything. I was really looking forward to that part of it. and going in and just learning the equipment and everything and getting to know the people. I didn't have no, my expectations of everything was just being able to learn new things and meet new people.
So at this point in the show, Keith, what we do is we jump into some questions from actually some of our skilled workers in the field, some of the skilled workers across the country who have reached out to us. And first question actually comes from Ethan M. And he asks, are the skilled trades really dying? And his backside of that is it feels like there's the highest demand ever for skilled labor. So are skilled trades really dying in your opinion?
I don't feel like they're dying. I mean, they can't. I mean, their stuff's going to break. It has to be worked on, and we have to have people to do it. There's a lot of people retiring and getting out of the field and stuff, and it don't feel like it's as many people coming into it, because I feel like a lot of schools nowadays, they really push the 4-year college. And, I know that they have technical trades and stuff, but I don't feel like they're pushing that near as much as a 4-year college. That's why it kind of feels like it's dying, just because it's not that many people really going into it.
It's almost like the skilled trades isn't dying, that the number of people going, like you just said, going into it is dying out. Like there's a higher than ever need and demand for it, but there's not enough people to reach it. So it's dying because they're just not able to fill all the open jobs. So it's interesting to look at it from that perspective of skilled trades is here and it will be here forever, as you just said, because things break. But if no one takes these jobs, it's dying because no one's taking the roles. And I wonder if that's an interpretation that people have on the ground floor.
Well, I feel like a lot of people don't want the responsibility either, because, in manufacturing, a lot of times you can go in and get an operator position, and it's not a very big pay scale difference. A lot of people just don't want that extra responsibility of getting to know all the equipment when they could just sit there and operate one piece of machinery all day. They don't have to worry about all the ins and outs of the whole facility and everything. I think a lot of it is, there's a pay gap, and I don't feel like it's a whole lot of difference there.
I think that brings us kind of really nicely into our next question from Straw Y, which asked, why aren't skilled workers valued as assets more? Which, as you just said, there seems to be a gap between production operators and the skilled workers operator, the skilled operators. Talk to me a little bit about why you think that why skilled workers aren't valued as assets.
I was actually told by a boss at a previous job that they could basically train anybody to turn a wrench. And that's not saying that not everybody can do it, but it is a knack. You have to have a knack for it. And you have to have the want to learn and everything. It really shoots people down, especially when you've been in this field for 18 years. Somebody tell you that they can train anybody to do it when you know that it's not the case.
And that's got to be really hard to hear, especially because there's so many people out there who are, like you just said, they don't want to take responsibility for it. So yeah, they have the physical capability to turn a wrench, correct? But do they have the want to? Do they have the grind? Do they have the wherewithal to know what to do after they turn that wrench and how to fix the machine? Because physically, their statement probably holds true. Yes, you can move your arm left to right. You can turn a wrench. But what can you do with that? Do you have the skill set around it to actually do the maintenance? So how do we shift that mindset, Keith? What do we have to do?
I feel like you need to give, the skilled workers and everybody, you got to give them an incentive to want to go out and do it and learn the trade and everything. I mean, throw training out there to people, and if they get them into maybe these training programs, and it might spark more of an interest in it and say, hey, look at what I did. I'm not just sitting here pushing a button all day. I'm actually making this machine, figuring out the ins and outs and making it work to the capability that it can do or whatever.
You talked about incentivizing maintenance technicians in the maintenance field. One thing you hit on was training. What are some other options or some training programs do you think people should be presenting or people should be provided?
Well, I mean, just like, specialty training, like as far as the equipment that is in the facility and everything. You got all these different manufacturers, like the actual machines, it's different manufacturers. Have those companies come in and have seminars and, just actual real training, like go out there, not just the books, but do the hands-on, like, say bring a tear down, go out and work on a tear down together. That way you get to see all the ins and outs of the machine, and you really get to understand how everything's working and how this works with that and so on.
It's great. And it ties into, as we continue to try to upskill people and we try to level people up in their careers, there's questions that come into us, just like this next one from George T. of like, how do you prepare for advancement in industrial maintenance? You just talked about a couple of them being OJT and some OEMs who come in, so original equipment manufacturers who come in and give those trainings. But what else? I mean, as a actual industrial maintenance role, what's something you can do every day to advance your career?
Show up to work on time. Always be willing to jump in there and lend a hand. I mean, even if you don't know exactly what the machine's supposed to be doing, that's how you learn too. Say you're new at the job or whatever, just jump in there and help. Be ready to do whatever. Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, showing up to work and be willing to work.
Why is it, do you think, that that's so difficult nowadays? Just that first part of it, that show up to work. I feel like you laugh through that just to kind of get through the pain that you feel in that moment. Saying, like, why do you feel like it's so hard to get to work?
I don't feel like it's hard for me, but it just seems like a lot of people just don't want to work anymore, and it's pretty sad. I want to go to work. I want to be able to provide for my family. I just got that mentality in me, just to work and get it done.
A couple of things you've talked about in the maintenance world, as you just said, is people not showing up, and then operators and the gap in maintenance. Hunter S wants to know, what are the two most common flaws in the industrial field that go unaddressed, and why do you think they go unaddressed? I'm curious to know.
That goes back to like training and stuff too, but also like, as far as like I've worked, this was a previous job, but I come in, it was me and another guy. We were on daylight for basically 3 days, and we got transitioned to night shift, just the both of us, not knowing the equipment. We both were mechanics 15 and 20 years, but not on this equipment. I mean, we literally, it was either sink or swim. We just had to learn the equipment on our own and just go through trial and error, basically, having no training at all, just getting thrown to the wolves.
What do you think that's a reason for? Like quick shift changes or limited training programs? What do you think caused that?
People are not really happy with their jobs when you come in and you don't really, know expectations and everything. I mean, people have expectations out of you, but you have expectations out of them also. And, I think that's a really big thing you need to be shown, basically, this is what we need. This is what this is supposed to do. I mean, at least go over the stuff with you, a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that there's a shift in a movement in the hiring world across kind of all aspects. So this idea that onboarding is not that important, onboarding and training is not that important, but all of us crave and enjoy structured environments. So on your first day and your third day and your fourth day, if by the end of your third day, they're just like, all right, well, go do your job, goodbye, it feels a lot like you weren't really brought up to speed on time. So I think it's interesting that the onboarding period and the training periods need to almost be a little bit slower and a little bit more deliberate about actually bringing people into the fold before they release them and throw them to the wolves, as you just said. So I think that's definitely something that I don't think enough people are talking about.
I feel like a lot of companies also are just looking for a body to fill the position, because everybody's having problems hiring anybody. And just about every place you see, it's just a rotating door constantly, people coming in and going out. I guess that might be the reasoning by them not really training that much, but it would make people want to stick around longer if they actually knew what was expected of them and how everything was supposed to roll.
Keith, I was hoping that you could walk me through and talk to me a little bit about how you went through the onboarding and hiring process here at Skillwork, because your story is amazing.
Well, before I even actually applied for Skillwork, I sat down and I watched all kinds of YouTube videos on you, see what everything that y'all had to say, and everything really rang true, as far as with Skillwork and everything. And I actually sat down and talked to my family, and I wanted everybody's opinion to be involved in it, just because it's a huge thing to basically up and leave home and everything. And I wanted to know what their thoughts were. I wanted to know all the pros and cons. I got my wife, my daughter, my son, all of us, we sat down and we wrote down everything that we thought was good and everything that we thought was bad. And then we sat down and talked about it. Everybody was on board with it. Everybody except for my son. He's 18 and he's ready to do his own thing. I was just ready for a change too, and I think my whole family was. Everybody's wanting to get out there and adventure, have an adventure to see the country and everything. My son ain't coming along, but he's growing up, and he's living life, doing everything he wants to do too.
Keith, you'd said that when you watched some of the videos and when you watched the footage that it resonated with you. Talk to me a little bit about what you think stood out.
Just the whole respect for the skilled worker and everything. It really says a lot about skilled work also that the CEO actually calls and talks to you. I mean, how often do you get somebody that actually calls and that y'all seem genuinely like y'all want to make sure everything is up to par and good? It's super awesome how much y'all keep in touch with everybody. It makes you feel more appreciated too out in the workforce.
And you, Keith, you definitely are appreciated. You and all of our skilled workers and all of our skill workers here internally, every one of you is appreciated and valued here at Skillwork by everybody up and down the corporate ladder. And as you said, the COO takes time out of his day every single day to call every new skill worker who comes through the door at this building because he wants them to feel how you feel, valued, respected, and definitely admired for the things that you guys do for this country and for yourselves. All right, Keith, this is the part of the show, and it's my favorite part of the show, where I turn it over to you and I give you 5-10 minutes, however long you need. If you could say one thing right now to everybody in the industry, so every industrial maintenance mechanic in the industry is going to hear the next few words out of your mouth. What's one thing you would say to all of them that you think would help them grow their careers, that you think would make an impact on the industry as a whole?
Well, I feel like to go out there, learn as much as you can, because when you stop learning, that's not good. That's the industrial field's constantly evolving, and you got to keep up with everything and keep on trucking. Take it one punch at a time.
What's your favorite part about Massachusetts so far?
I don't really know yet. I'm getting ready to experience all that with my family. So my daughter's up here with me now, and then my wife's going to be joining me here in a couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that we can go all around and see what all the area has to offer. Head up into Maine and go to New York City. We're going to try to see all the New England states that we can, turning it into an adventure.
Hey, that's the way to do it. Get paid to go somewhere and see everything you can.
Yeah.
All right, Keith. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And for those of you watching and listening, please continue to subscribe. Watch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere where you watch your podcast. We put out new episodes every 2 weeks. We'd love to hear from all of you. Please like, comment, and subscribe and follow us. Thank you all.